Hi everyone, it's Madam Maddox and this is Society's Secrets, and this is our very first episode, and this is JJ and she is my first interview. And on this particular podcast, our goal is to talk about taboo topics, and of course this month is suicide awareness, the month of September, and due to certain regulations we actually have to use the term unaliving, which again, it revolves around unstigmatizing things. It is what it is, right? We shouldn't have to gloss over what it actually is. But in this situation, for the purpose of being able to post on social media, we are going to talk about Jamie's book, and it's Silence Equals Unaliving and Love Yourself to Live. And while we're doing this, some of you may know, but we won't get into that part of my life. I am a hairdresser, have been for 20 years. And so while we're doing her hair, we're just going to chit chat and we're going to get to know JJ. And we're going to talk about what brought her to her book specifically. And she's literally just going to talk about her life as I color her hair purple, which happens to be, it's her favorite color, but it just happens to be the unaliving color.
Yeah, like the color of their ribbon.
So, anyways, with that said, welcome JJ.
Hi.
Thanks for letting me be weird and do your hair while we talk about you.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to get my hair done.
All right. So, I just want to hear a little bit about your life. We can talk about your book, but let's just talk about you for now.
Yeah.
And let's get to know you specifically, and then what brought you to that stage where you decided to write a book.
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised very religious, just grew up Mormon. With that comes like a set of expectations of perfection. And so I guess that kind of set me up to always hold a standard of perfection that really impacted my book and how I just went into life, I guess. 5 years ago, I decided to leave the church, really dive into deep to some things that I believe in and healing. And the longer I left, the more I learned true healing and true spirituality and connecting to your own divine, call that God, call it the universe, call it whatever you may. I really was able to connect on a spiritual level deeper than I ever did when I was part of the Mormon church. And
so I have questions.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you? I love that you've reached a stage in your life where you're, healing, and you are, like you said, more in touch with yourself spiritually than you ever were. Can you tell us a little bit about Mormonism specifically? I know that you said that they had a high standard of perfection, but what did that look like in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I was the baby. My sisters, they didn't follow the rules. Like you're not supposed to drink, you're not supposed to swear, you're not even supposed to drink coffee and tea. It's very strict. And on the clothes you should wear, they just have a lot of rules regarding that. And my sisters didn't follow those rules. And so I was like, oh, I gotta be the perfect child so that my dad's tired, so I'll just follow all the rules. And so that it was just like no drinking, no swearing, no smoking, no boys, just very conservative.
How many years of Mormonism were you part of that church?
Like 25 or 20, until I was like 25 or 26. And when I tell you I was devout. I was those missionaries who come knock on your door, and we weren't allowed to talk to our family on the phone except for twice a year, on Mother's Day and Christmas. And so for 18 months, I paid money to leave my family. Each month, I had to pay several $100s to be out teaching the gospel and not talking to my family. And out there, you had to follow even stricter rules. So I was a missionary. I got married in the Mormon temples, and those are those $1 million buildings that are white. That I just got married there. And so it was my life until I was midway through my 20s.
I remember you had said that you were the last one to leave Mormonism.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that you weren't even allowed to have your family members at your wedding if they weren't in the Mormon. So talk about that.
Like I said, I was the baby, and my older sisters, they didn't follow the rules, and they had left. One of my sisters left when she was 14, and then my oldest sister, I think she left around 19 or 20. And if you're not Mormon or active Mormon, then you aren't allowed inside the temple buildings because there's certain rules or standards that you have to live up to, as well as paying like 10% of your annual income, not drinking coffee, not drinking tea. If you aren't following those rules, then you don't get to go inside the building. So my ex-husband and I got sealed, and when we were sealed, that's the term for being married. None of my family got to witness it. They were all standing outside when I came out, and we're like, "Hi, you're now married." So that was pretty disheartening that they didn't get to be there.
Talk about some of the other, struggles and stuff outside of Mormonism that you were experiencing. I know that your ex-husband is still very much your friend. You want to talk about your mental health stuff?
Yeah, as long as I can remember, I have struggled with like depression, and I was actually thinking about that the other day, that it really started when I was in 8th grade, and that was when I kissed a girl. That was not allowed. That wasn't allowed in Mormonism. I just buried that. I buried it, and I think that was kind of the start of it, was because he's my ex-husband now, because I am a late blooming lesbian because I did suppress that, and I just struggled with my mental health. A big part of me was suppressed, and I followed all the rules. I did everything, quote unquote, that I was supposed to. I got married in the temple. I had babies. And I was so unhappy in my marriage, even though, like, you've met Josh. He is a beautiful man. He is such a good human. He loves fiercely, and he's a good dad. And he's kind of like one of those rare gems. But I just happen to be like a flaming lesbian. I just wasn't able to really be happy because I wasn't being authentic. And I learned, like, I wasn't depressed, I was suppressed. Once I came out last year and really embraced that side of myself, then I started to feel a lot of relief from the depression. Throughout these years, I've had like the several unaliving attempts, and it was rooted back to an authenticity to myself.
The fact that you were a lesbian.
Yeah.
What was the thought process? Do you know what your thought process was? Like, what did you think that you were resolving?
It wasn't necessarily about my sexuality, because I didn't unbury that until last year. So the unaliving came down to, I am a burden to those around me. Like, at the end of the day, I thought that me not being here would give them more relief than
Peace?
Me being here. Yeah.
Was it because it actively showed? Do you feel that your unhappiness with your life, did you feel like it affected your parenting? Did it affect your marriage? What was it that made you feel that would be the resolution?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that impacted it in every way. I was like, oh, I'm a depressed mom. Like, my kids would be better off without me. I'm a depressed wife. Like, he doesn't deserve this. He deserves someone who can be happy. Like, why can't I just fucking be happy? It impacted them in so many ways. Like, there's even to this day still some sadness of, like, oh, I wish I wasn't so depressed my kids' whole lives, because now they're in school, and I feel like I just wasted so much time being depressed. But that's where, like, a lot of self-judgment comes in, and where I'm like, oh, that's something that I still need to work on with healing, because we're holding some judgment for ourselves in a place that it's not necessary.
When you wrote the book, you were in a place of healing. You're working towards healing, but you're still actively recovering, correct?
Absolutely. And that's what I like to explain to people. Healing is not a destination, right? It's about a journey. It's a process. And some days my healing journey is going to look better than others. And it's just about each day trying to improve or grow just a little more.
First, tell me how Josh took when you came out.
I've slowly been coming out over the years. When we first got married, I had a best friend. She wasn't just my best friend. Like, everyone was like, are they together? Like, are they together? And even we were like, no, like, we're not together. We're just best friends. He knew because her and I were like hanging out. And so when I told him, oh, hey, I'm bi, he was like, really? Like, obviously. And then a few years later, I came out as pans, which pans is similar to bi, but it's like genders you don't care, which again wasn't fully authentic, but I was like, well, I don't really want to blow up my marriage, so I'll just say that I'm pans. And then finally, last year, I told him like, I'm lesbian, and he was like, it's fine, like, it's fine. And I was like, no, like, I'm telling you I'm lesbian and I am done. It was hard.
How was that process?
The best way I could explain it was I was ugly crying. My other best friend who lives in Utah, and we were FaceTiming, and I'm ugly crying in the shower, just sitting there, ugly crying, telling him everything that happened, just crying as the water's hitting me. He's just like, I wish I could be there. And it was really, really devastating to have to hurt someone you love so deeply, because it's not that there was nothing wrong with our marriage. There was nothing wrong with him. He's a good guy. It's just something that I had to accept about myself. It was very painful to have to break someone who you love so deeply. And yeah, it hurt him, obviously, and it still is painful, but it was hard. Short answer, it was hard.
Writing the book, what prompted the inspiration?
The universe, I guess. I just had to figure out a way to process like what I was feeling and still like take the lessons from it. And I've always loved writing. Like, I write a lot of poetry, and I typically got things out that way.
Going back to the development of the book, what prompted you to write your book now versus, say, a different time in your life?
A couple years ago, I had one of my worst attempts, and after that attempt, I went to a place called Estuary, and it's a place that one of my best friends owned in Massachusetts, and you go and you have the opportunity to really get grounded and connect yourself to the divine. There's a lot of meditation, there's a lot of different types of therapy, and I just really experienced, it was like a birth. I was like, oh, this is what it really feels like to step into my healing journey, not just the leaving the church journey and trying to figure out what I believe. After I got back from Estuary and I had to write that experience out, I had to really process my healing journey. And so I was able to, and I've always loved writing, I was able to really start seeing lessons that I was learning from the universe and put that down in paper. It's really what prompted the book, was that Estuary experience.
Are you comfortable talking about covering like one of your attempts and what that looked like? Do you think that there are signs when somebody's struggling? Do you think that, or is it different for everybody?
For me personally, there weren't necessarily signs, because like me being depressed was nothing, as fucked up as it sounds, it was nothing new. Oh, Jamie's depressed, same dance, different day. I'm a dog groomer, and you know this, like with shears, they're really sharp. I had fired someone who I was building a business with. I just was like, fuck it, I'm a burden. I got in a fight with my ex-husband, and I was like, everyone would just be better off. Like, I'm done. Like, my kids, they would be better off. I went and I tried, and I've watched like enough Grey's Anatomy that I knew the right, I guess, angle. Technique. Yeah, I did that. But Josh, I don't know, it was the universe, I guess. He just felt like he had to come check on me, and he did. And we wrestled over the shears, and he took them and grabbed towels and stopped stopped the bleeding and was really able to help get everything safe. Then he was like, I'm either admitting you to the hospital or you're finding a place to go. And that's when Jessie, I called her and was like, hey, I know you have this place, Estuary. I just tried doing this, and my husband said that he's going to either commit me into the hospital. I didn't need the hospital. I needed spiritual, authentic healing. But the crazy thing about that was, like, I had just met Jessie 2 weeks earlier when I went on a girls' trip to Disneyland. She was by herself, and we ended up talking, and we hit it off and became like instant soul friends. Like, I guess divine timing that she was in my life with that attempt, because I was really able to go on a healing journey with her, and we had just met. I guess everything happens for a reason.
What do you hope to gain from sharing your story, and what have you gained by writing it and telling it and sharing it?
What I have gained already has been an immense outpouring. I did a book fair recently, and a woman came up to me and she said that she was just at her brother's funeral the day before because he had unalived himself, and that she was so grateful that I was willing to talk about this because people don't talk about it. And that's my goal with it, is to destigmatize it, because it is like an addiction. For someone like me, if I am emotionally triggered, my immediate thought is, oh, it would be better if I just went to sleep. Like, do I actually believe that currently? That's not a current belief system that I have, but it is something that crosses my mind. Just like alcoholics are like, oh, I want alcoholic. Well, I want to be unalived. So I want people to be able to talk about it so that they know you're not crazy for still having those thoughts. We just need to share our tools and work with each other and have a community where people can talk about this so that they know they're not alone, because it's not like a one and done thing. Oh, I attempted and now I'm healed. That's why I said, like, healing is such a journey. It's not just a one and done thing. Like, it's not a destination. So I really want people to understand that healing is a process. And the more that we really talk about destigmatizing this and letting people know, like, hey, it's not like a attention seeking thing. It's something that I really struggle with.
I can honestly add to the fact that, some of my darkest moments, I think sometimes when you're really struggling and you're in the depths of despair or in a really dark, it happens to a lot of people, you really have convinced yourself there's no one there. You don't have friends, you don't have people who love you, and that you don't have support. I think in my own healing journey, that has been something that I'm rewriting within myself. I think when you've been disappointed, whether it's being disappointed by other people who let you down, when you find yourself having to do a lot for yourself and become independent, asking for help becomes in your mind a weakness, and saying, I'm struggling, I need help. And so even for myself, I have been practicing that. She can attest. I've been practicing saying, hey, I need help. I'm struggling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And even saying those things out loud has lifted a little bit of that burden.
Talking about
and it's leaving room for someone to say, hey, I'm here for you. And I think that the more we talk about subjects like this and stop calling it something else, unaliving, and just allowing people to have the space to talk about something as serious as unaliving without having to, again, reword it to fit social standards. The truth is that there are tons of people who struggle with unaliving ideations every single day. And a lot of that comes from just the idea that we are alone and feel separated from our thoughts and our emotions at that moment. Just having an outreach of support, someone that you can say, hey, if I ever message you and just say that I need your help or I need to vent, that person understands that's your way of saying, I need support at this moment.
Yeah.
And even if it's just to rant and rave, even if it's just 15 minutes of I need to let this off my chest, and she walks away feeling better, she's still here tomorrow, then that conversation was worth it. We are in a world that is chaotic and has a lot of expectation, and it's overwhelming at times. The whole point of this is to give not only your book some recognition, but also give you the praise that you deserve, because it's a tough subject. And we're going to give Jamie tons of attention this month, not only because it's unaliving awareness, but because it's a subject that really deserves some attention. And it takes so much strength to put your personal struggles and journey out there, but her mission is to help other people and empower other people to speak out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you for doing this, and we'll throw a little picture of her after up just so you know what it'll look like after. But thank you for making this a cool first interview.
Thank you,
this
Madam
is Madam.
Maddox.
Yes, it's Madam Maddox and Society's Secrets.